All right, my secondary math 1 class, we are going to be continuing to talk about area, which means the space that fills up that two-dimensional shape, right? So we've talked about a few different shapes and how to find their area. So let's go ahead and rewrite those equations, or formulas, excuse me. Okay, so we have area of a rectangle. Okay, so that's going to be length times width. Okay, then we learned about area of a triangle, a three-sided shape. That's going to be 1/2 times base times height. Awesome. The next two we learned about were a trapezoid. Remember, a trapezoid has a small side and a big side, and this is going to be A plus B in parentheses. So first you have to add your A plus B. Then you have to divide that by 2. And then lastly, you're going to multiply by the height. Okay, and then our very last one we learned about is a parallelogram. Okay, kind of like a slanty rectangle. Okay, and we learned that that's simply base times height, which is kind of the same thing, or pretty much the same thing as length times width. Okay, so those are all 4 of our area formulas that we learned. So let's go ahead and practice these guys. Okay, so number 1, we have a rectangle. So first thing we need to do is identify our length and our width. So I'm going to do my length is 3, which means my width is 1.1. Okay, so that means I'm going to calculate this. My area of this shape is going to be length, 3 kilometers, multiplied by my width, 1.1 kilometers. Okay, now I can go ahead and multiply that in my calculator. So here we have 3 times 1.1 is what I'm going to punch in. Okay, 3 times 1.1, and I get 3.3. Area equals 3.3. Okay, now we cannot forget our units of measurement. Remember, if you're an engineer or something like that, and you don't specify kilometers versus centimeters, those two things are very different. So we have to do our units. And since there are 2 kilometers being multiplied together, we have kilometers squared. Beautiful. Okay, let's look at number 2. We don't have a ton of space, that's okay. Okay, so we have a triangle here. So this is actually our triangle right here. Okay, these dotted lines are going to show us how tall that triangle actually is. Okay, so I kind of just gave you a hint because we need to identify 2 things in our triangle, our base and our height. Okay, well our base, think of it like the bottom. So if I just did this to make this triangle stand, that would be its bottom or its base. So I'm going to go ahead and label 4.8 as its base. Okay, and then how tall it is, how high, that's going to be our height, 8.2. Okay, so we know we have the area of this guy is 1/2 times our base, 4.8 meters, times our height, 8.2 meters. Okay, now we can go ahead and multiply. So I'm going to punch into my calculator. Remember, 1/2 is 0.5. So 0.5 times 4.8 times 8.2, and that's going to give me 19.68. Area equals 19.68. What are my units of measurement? Remember, since we have 2 meters being multiplied, I have meters squared. Beautiful. Okay, let's look at number 3. What shape is number 3? Okay, it's a trapezoid. Okay, remember trapezoids have a little side, which we label A, our big side, which we label B, and then we have our height. Okay, so let's go over and label what we know. What is my little side? What is my little side? Okay, I can see that 2.9 is my little side, so I'm going to label that B, or A, excuse me. What's my big side across from my A? Remember, it's always across or parallel to my A. It's going to be 7.9. And then my height, how tall my trapezoid is, that is 3.3. Beautiful. Okay, so let's go ahead and plug this into our formula. Okay, so for the trapezoid, this one's a little bit longer, that's okay. We have A plus B in our parentheses first. So A is 2.9 meters plus B, 7.9 meters. Okay, and the first thing we're going to do is add that together, okay? Remember, I'm going to just fill out the rest of the formula, but remember, we must do parentheses first. Okay, so we're just going to focus on the parentheses part. So I have 2.9 plus 7.9 plus 7.9. That's going to give me 10.8. So that piece in the parentheses right there, I'm just going to simply write that 10.8. Okay, it's still going to be divided by 2 and then multiplied by our height, 3.3 meters, and this was also meters. Okay, so now let's go ahead and solve this piece. So we need to divide by 2 before we multiply it by the height. Okay, so I'm going to take 10.8, which is still in my calculator, divided by 2, and I get 5.4. Area equals 5.4 meters. My last step is to multiply it by the height, and let's see what we get. 5.4 times 3.3. And we get our area, I'm going to write it right here because I don't have a ton of room. Area equals 17.82 what? What are my units? Meters squared. I know that kind of bleeds into the other one. Sorry about that. Not a ton of room. Okay, let's go ahead and look at number 4. What shape is number 4? Remember, this slanty rectangle is a parallelogram. So there's 2 things we need to identify, our base and our height. Okay, well, our base, think bottom, and our height, how tall it is. So our base is 9, and our height is 8. Okay, so now we can go ahead and plug this into our formula. So area equals my base, 9 feet, times my height, 8 feet, and let's go ahead and multiply that. So we have 9 times 8, which if you do this in your head, that's totally awesome. You get 72. Okay, and what are my units? Remember, feet times feet is feet squared. And there we go. Okay. So that was just finding the area, multiplying the values, plugging it into the formula to find the area. On numbers 5 through 8, we're actually going to go backwards. Okay, so notice that our directions tell us to find the missing, excuse me, my voice just gave out. Find the missing measurement. Okay, so notice on number 5 that it's asking us to find this question mark, which I'm just going to relabel as an X because we like X in math. Okay, and it actually gives us our area. Okay, so using our area, we're going to plug whatever it gives us wherever we see the A in our formula, and we're going to solve for the missing measurement. Okay, so first of all, what shape is this? What formula do we have to plug it into? What shape? It's going to be a trapezoid. Okay, so we're going to plug it into our trapezoid formula there. Okay, so first comes our area. Well, we know our area, so we're going to write 34.2, and I'm just going to leave the units off for now just to give us a little more space. 34.2 is our area, and it equals the formula. Okay, what's my A? Our A comes first. It's our little side, so 3.5. Okay, plus, what's my B? B is what's missing. Okay, so we're just going to label that as B. We don't know B, so we have to label it as B. Okay, we're going to divide it by 2, which the formula tells us to do, and then we're going to multiply it by the height, which is 6. Okay, so now we see that this is an equation that we're actually trying to solve for the variable. Okay, so we're working from farthest away from my variable. So what is farthest away from this B? This 3.5 is attached because the parentheses, then it's over 2. So we see that this times by 6 is farthest away. Well, what's the opposite of times by 6? We're going to divide by 6. Okay, now we're simply just solving for the variable. So on this side, we have 34.2 divided by 6. 34.2 divided by 6. That gives us 5.7 on this side. And we got rid of that, so now all we have left is, 3.5 plus b divided by 2. Okay, we got rid of that piece. It's getting smaller and smaller. Okay, we know that 3.5 is connected, so now what's the farthest away? Divide by 2. And what is the opposite of divide by 2? We're going to multiply by 2. Okay, so on this side I have 2 times 5.7. I'm just going to multiply that by 2, and I get 11.4 equals, now I don't need the parentheses anymore because they're just by themselves now. 3.5 plus b. Okay, now what's my very last step? What do I have to get rid of with the same side as b? It's this plus 3.5. Well, what's the opposite of plus 3.5? We're going to subtract 3.5 from 11.4, and that's going to give us our b all by itself. So what is our answer? What is 11.4 minus 3.5? Minus 3.5. That's going to give us 7.9. And we found our missing measurement. We know that b is 7.9. But 7.9 what? Okay, this is where we need to bring the units back in. Remember, you're an engineer. Is it miles, feet, inches? What is it? It's centimeters. Okay, remember, it's not centimeters squared because that's only what our area is. This is just simply a measurement. Okay, so 7.9 centimeters. Sorry, that's kind of crammed there. Okay, let's look at number 6. What shape are we working with? I almost just said it. A triangle. So we're going to have to use the triangle formula. Okay, so let's plug in what we know. Okay, we know our area. It gives us our area. So our area is 24.8 equals, our triangle formula is 1/2 times base. Well, what is my base? Okay, remember, if we just flip it like that, that becomes my bottom. So my base is 9.9. And multiplied by my height. What is my height? Okay, well, that's the x. That's what we don't know. Or we can label it as h. Okay, because that is our height. Okay, well, let's go ahead and solve. Okay, so we're trying to get 9.9 and 1/2 to go away. Well, first, let's figure out what this decimal is. So I'm actually going to combine these two before I move them to the other side. So what is this guy? 1/2, 0.5 times 9.9. We get 4.95. So I haven't done anything with the other side yet. I just combined 1/2 and 9.9 and got 4.95 times h. Okay, well, now I have times by 4.95 I got to get rid of. What's the opposite of times by 4.95? We're going to divide by 4.95 on both sides. So I get h is all by itself. And what do we get over here? What is 24.8? 24.8 divided by 4.95. And we get this huge long repeating decimal, so we're just gonna round it to right there. 5.01. 5.01 what? I gave myself a little space this time. What are my units of measurement? Miles. So we know that this is 5.01 miles. And we found our missing measurement. Okay. Awesome. Let's look at number 7. What shape are we working with? So this one is a rectangle. So we have our length times our width. So let's plug in what we know. So we already know our area. Okay, our area is 55. Okay, well then our length, let's go ahead and just label 5 as our length. That means question mark, or X is our W. Okay, so we have our length, which is 5, times W, which is our width, which is what we don't know, right? So this one, we only have one step to getting W by itself. Okay, so I need to get rid of times by 5. So what is the opposite of times by 5? I'm going to divide by 5. Okay, so I get W's all by itself. And what is 55 divided by 5? I get 11. Okay, what are my units of measurement? M for meters, so 11 meters equals our width. 11 meters. Great job. Okay, last example. What shape are we working with on number 8? It's a slanty rectangle, which we call parallelogram, so we need our base and our height. Okay, well, let's label and plug in what we know. So we know our area. So we're going to plug in our area equals base. Well, our base is 4.4 times our height, which is our question mark, or X. So easy peasy, let's do 4.4 for our base times H for our height. Okay, and there's only one thing I got to do to get H by itself. What is the opposite of times by 4.4? We're going to divide by 4.4. Okay, so I'm going to get H all by itself. And what do I get over here? Well, let's plug it in. 13.2 divided by 4.4. And I get a nice and pretty 3. Okay, 3 what? What are my units of measurement? km for kilometers. So my height is 3 kilometers. Perfect. Okay, now there's one example I actually want to add to our notes. So I want us to find the area of a shape that is actually an L shape. Okay, so we're going to label this as 6, this as 3, and this as 8. Okay, awesome. So we're finding the area of a shape that's actually it's kind of weirdly shaped. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to split this up into 2 shapes. So I see that I have 2 rectangles making this L shape. Okay, so if this whole side is 6 and this side is 3, how much is this side right here? Because we're going to need that side. What is 6 minus 3? That is also going to be 3. Okay, and now we need, whoops, I need to label this guy. Let's label this as 4. Okay. So now we can see that we have 2 shapes here. We have this green rectangle, and we have this purple rectangle. So let's find the area of the green one first. Okay, so the area of the green one is going to be our length times our width. Okay, well, length is 3, width is 4. Remember, the 6 was that whole side. We're just worrying about the small sides. Okay, so 3 times 4. We don't have any units, that's okay. Okay, so the area of our green one is going to be 12. Okay, well, now let's find the area of our purple one. So I have our length times our width. We'll do 3 again for our length. This time 8 is our width. So I have area equals 3 times 8. So the area of my purple is 24. Okay, well now what is the area of the whole thing? So the whole thing is this guy, right? The whole L-shaped shape. Okay, well how we find that is we just take 12 plus 24, add the areas together, and we get 36. And just because it's area, we'll write units squared. And there we go. You do have a couple questions like this on your assignment. Okay, just split it up into two shapes, find the areas of each, and add them together. Okay, those are your notes for today. In fact, I'll label this as bonus question 9. Okay, those are your notes. You do have an assignment.